For those of you watching for the first time, this is a podcast that goes through tokens, projects, protocols, and we take them through some guardrails for a standard for internet capital markets. How should projects be built and run and set up so we have the vision of internet capital markets that we all want to see succeed and become the future. Today, we're going to be talking about one of the biggest protocols on Solana, which is Jito. Jito is a great example because of its scale, because of how it's being run as a DAO, because it also has future key adoption, so they like to experiment with things, and they are very, very active on all fronts. I think there's a lot of meat to discuss around Jito when it comes, to investor protections, their activity, incentives, their setups, transparency. So I think one good point to start the conversation is some recent proposals that Zito had on their token voting on Realms. Most of them revolve around setting up and funding the sub-DAO they have. To fund the Jito sub-DAO with 1 million Jito Sol to start working to build infrastructure for Jito Sol holders to have a say by voting on Solana SIMDs, which is very cool, if I might say so. This brings to the fold, the fact that Zito has had recently a sub-DAO that was created, which is good in terms of structure, and I believe in transparency. I think there are some comments that, some thoughts that we've had about, the structure of Jito and how, how it sets up things and how transparent it is. Guys, you wanna chat a little more about this?
Jito what has 5 proposals, and I we can discuss on all of 5 of them, but I don't think I'm knowledgeable enough to touch most of the staking instruction stuff, like BAM adoption, which is like the marketplace. I know the directing staking. Uh, so yeah, I'm not gonna touch those. I'm gonna touch the sub-DAO one, which is mostly we can touch on transparency side. And the Solana governance is, which I assume it's more easy to understand, which enable the LST voters, if I'm not wrong, to participate in the Solana governance, in the SMMDs as you were talking about. Let's go to the first one, which was mostly about the sub-DAO, which was extending the budget. Regarding this topic, we can touch basically just on the transparency as we did the last podcast, last talk. And whereas this proposal from Jito and which was mostly from Dr. Nick made the proposal on the Jito discourse was to extend the budget of the crypto economic sub-DAO. Now, in terms of transparency, the proposal itself on the Jito discourse has no mention of the transparency side of how the funds, how quickly is to find the address that is belong to the sub-DAO. Now, it's very easy also on the other side to find it because the proposal itself has a transfer instruction. So on Realms, you can do programmable proposals where you can attach an asset and transfer to another wallet address in the proposal itself. So if you go to the instructions, you can find very easily that the Jito DAO is transferring 50k worth, staked Jito staked Sol to this address, which belongs to a squad's wallet address, which is managed by 4 out of 10. Now, transfer.
How did you now? You've done great detective work, and it sucks that it's not easier for you to see it. We can discuss more on how Jito can work on the transparency. How do you know it's a 4 of 10? How did you go from seeing the address in the transfer instructions to seeing a 4 of 10 multisig?
So far, I just used 2 tools, not 2 tools, but 2 different websites. Which one is Realms, where the proposal is happening, and the other one was the SoulScan.
Okay, so once you're at SoulScan, how do you see a 4 of 10 multisig?
So maybe I can screen share this.
Because I honestly don't know how you did it.
Yeah, there's no need to
I,
screen share. I will just say so. In the Realms proposal, there's a summary, right? Transfer 50k worth of Jito stake sold to this address 9VQ, right? So if you click on that address, it redirects to Solscan, which it's the preferred explorer you can use on Realms, besides on other ones. Now you will see it isn't a token account. It's not the wallet address. It's the token account owned by this wallet address, which you can go to more info card and it says owner, and then
yeah, and
it
that's
says
5W.
yeah 5W, and this most likely is the subDAO. So the subDAO owns around what 4.5 million of Jito and in total 8 million in assets.
I see. And you can see from the multi-sig card
Yeah.
all that information.
So yeah, from what I also just recently discovered that SoulScan has these squads integrations. I mean, it's basically the only multi-sig on Solana besides Realms as well. But they integrated squads in this case to showcase the program ID, the multi-sig accounts, and what's the quorum on these multi-sigs, which in this subDAO case is 4 out of 10. So yeah, that's how quickly you can discover where the money went and how much people have control over these assets, and of course the wallet addresses that are part of this subDAO as well.
Is there a way to take get that address, and then look at the squads?
Yes, if so, now if you go to squads, you just replace the. Let's say you have a squads already on your. You're part of one of the squads. You just go to the browser link and you switch the squads account you're part of with the squads you want to see. Let's say it's an external one. So you take this subDAO, Jito subDAO wallet address, and you just switch on the browser link, and you'll probably be able to see the UI on how they see the squads itself. So it will say Jito tokenomics subDAO, 8 million in assets. You can see down the transactions, every type of subscription they're paying, and maybe program will put it they're also doing on squads now.
At the same time, I'm going through the constitution of Jito in their documentation, where it clearly references their main treasury in realms, which is ultra transparent. Like if it's in realms, it's easy to research. Like what Legend is showing us here requires a little bit of digging, understanding, and kind of assuming that you are not missing anything. Because yeah, you're seeing these subDAOs, but how do you know there's not more? Or you're gonna go back in time, see how many. Like I'm going through the
Official documentation.
documentation, and it does reference squads, multisigs.
Yeah, Legend, I
There
can't
is
get
an
the
account
link.
address that starts with 7SK8, which is a squad's treasury for govern. Yeah, which it's but nothing is concrete. The main treasury is Realms DAO. So is this a gap in the documentation? Is this the constitution that hasn't been updated? Is it the Jito being not very strict with itself on how they lay out their governance and their the treasuries? What do you think?
Yeah. So I don't know, Legend, if you can figure out how to get the link to the squads.
I'll screen share now, and let's go over let's go together how you can find the address, and see on squads how they see it as well.
On transparency, you've done all of the right things, but I think you've shot yourself in the foot by using multiple different platforms. And now you have to update the documentation to constantly, like, I was going through the JIP. And, is it great that every JIP was released all at once by the same author? Not great. would have been nicer if there was like it's not so much, hey, we're discussing this as a community. It's, hey, this is what we're doing. I don't love that. Would have been better if it was more, and you can see like 2 of the 5 have no replies. Um, but I digress. I do want to go on the record saying that Jet Europa, like all the things that Jito's doing, the Cabal, love every initiative, love the sub DAOs. Like, I think the issues I have are not at all on strategy and approach and governance ethos. It's all on, I think there were poor decisions on how to use tooling that's available. And I think that that's more of a, I'm new to the ecosystem. Dr. Nick is still new to Solana. I think that he just doesn't know about like some of these opportunities. For example, MetaDAO's shown us allowances are cool. All of these discussions around giving stuff should be streams. These are streams that could be set up from the mother treasury. And instead of giving all of the money, why does it all need to be given in one go? Are we expecting them to deploy it all in one go? One of the innovations I've really liked to the space is that we should be using programmatic security. So I would say all of those grants for all the sub DAOs, those should be done in streams. They could have been all done through realms. You would have been able to see them all as a Jito holder. The one JIP that mentions one of the squads, it gives the soul scan address. Don't give the soul scan address. Let's see what's happening. Give the squad's address. A better setup would have been all those sub DAOs are within realms. Then I, as a token holder, just go here and I can see it.
So yeah, I think I have also a strong opinion now on this sub-DAO transparency, which Jito by itself is very transparent on its own DAO. Like you can see the treasury, you can see most of the assets here. You can see how most of the assets are in each category. So for example, the Jito DAO treasury, for example, is getting 6.76 APR on its own yield, so that should be like around 2 million, maybe more in the annual revenue to the DAO itself. So this is the type of transparency you should look for. But in terms of how to get to the Jito sub-DAO squads we're talking about, so yeah, you go to the proposal itself. You check what's the title, what's the description, vote yes, no. You can see the programmable instruction here and how it's going to work out. And here you can see where the money is going for. Now, it goes to a token account that is owned by the squad itself. Here's the soul scan page. You can go to the owner, which is the squads. So what you do, you take the address of the squads, you copy it, and then you go to the to your squads. Let's say you have a squads as well to something else you've been using before, in the past. You go in the browser link and you just switch. So you get switch this link to the squads link. So you paste it, you search, and you'll get to the sub-DAO squads page. So yeah, tell me if it worked for you, and you should now have access to the sub-DAO squads, in a transparent way from squad side at least. What I don't like is that this sub-DAO is not kinda using squads to anything that Realms offers. Which squads has also its own potential. It has swaps, has you can stake to validator, and but that's not what the sub-DAO is using for mostly. So if you check the sub-DAO transactions, most of the transactions are just transfer proposals. So
Not explaining, not discussing.
yeah, these transfer proposals are very simple transfers, which you can have a Realms multisig or also a DAO if you want to, and you can do this on Realms with the title saying explaining what's this transfer for, with the description meaning like a more in-depth explanation of the proposal. And yeah, like if you're just using a squad just to transfer, maybe even for security, just why don't use realms as Jito DAO itself uses realms to do these programmatic instructions, which brings more transparency. The treasury will show you more details about it because Squad's treasury will just show how much balance you have. It doesn't show how much yield you're getting. For example, like if you go back to the Jito DAO treasury, it shows how much yield you're getting based on your asset allocation. And I mean, this is just the beginning. Like Jito is getting 26, let's say 26 million of Jito DAO assets are on yield, meaning the DAO treasury is getting some revenue back to the treasury, while the sub DAO here, which just you're not aware how much revenue you're making even. So I think it's a
Yeah,
bad explanation
and
of the treasury.
I don't think that this is like an intentional removing transparency. I think it is we're not we just don't know the tools exist to give more transparency. And I would tell you that ethos, I think that it's to be the most forward-thinking DAO decentralized protocol there is. I truly believe that that's the goal. So the only thing to do now is they would, have to update documentation and show all of these links to squads. That way people could go. Then you're going to have to put into practice. Obviously, I'm biased. We're all biased in saying that it would be more transparent to have them all in one place. If you want, maybe Jito goes and puts the whole treasury into squads. I don't think that's the case. And I didn't realize you're paying 50 USDC per month to remove transparency. I just saw it now in the subscription cost.
Yeah, I'm not aware of what they're paying for. Maybe they have a fuse, the Squads X. Maybe they're using to deploy funds into Camino. Now it's a good explanation why they need squads, right? Because the realms at the moment doesn't offer, let's say, integration to Camino. You can use
that's true.
Save, for example.
That's true. And that's a good argument for using squads. Is
Yeah,
that
like
if
I
you,
don't disagree. Like all of us are biased. You should use YAMLs for maximum transparency. And if you just intend to use transfers and without any explanation, just better use realms and use the same platform Jito DAO. But if you're using to deploy funds, I mean, I agree that squads is the best option here. But yeah, I digress.
we obviously would all say that Realms is the better option for a DAO that has sub DAOs. I also use it as a multi-sig Realms over squads.
How can you be sure you're not missing any sub DAOs?
You can't be. You can't be. You're dependent on documentation, and we currently know that documentation is not up to date. I would tell you that Jito, like if top transparency is here that we've seen in, we discussed Adrena last time, one click right underneath would be Jito. It's like, look, we've done everything we thought we could do for highest transparency. There's a few things we need to tweak. We either have to decide to use one platform to make it easier for you to see everything. The only one that can do that right now is Realms. Or you have to update all of your documentation and make sure that whenever you list discuss a multi-sig, you have to have the link to the multi-sig, to the squads itself, not the address. It's a lot of work. But
Yeah,
again, I would say high
Squads
transparency.
is using Jupyter DCA, so it makes sense for them to have a more agile, product here to do the DeFi interactions here. So yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is this: if you asked me, hey, should we have a sub DAO which its entire operation is to manage treasury? That it's going to be a hard argument saying that Realms is a better usage. You're going to have all of the the token extension, the Squad X, Fuse, what's it called, Squad X. You need that functionality if your mandate is we're traders. If your mandate is we're distributing funds for others to use, it's not the better choice. So I could see a good argument for using both. If the multi-sig is explicitly to be a trading thing, personally, if you're going to have a group trading, you're going to have to trust them and just let them, hot hot wallet, because I don't think you can do everything through SquadsX in the most efficient manner. You definitely can't use it on Realms either. So
I mean, to be honest, it's better to have squads with, let's say, not doxed unknowns on the internet to do programmable swaps than having the hot delegate that you don't know. He will just disappear.
I we've talked a lot about transparency. I would like to talk about the revenue aspect, and I know that this was also discussed on Twitter. Um, yeah, I don't know, Taki or Chris, if you guys want to drive that.
Yeah, so there was a conversation on Twitter. I'll share, and Chris, you can jump in wherever you want. I'll share my screen 1 second. Yeah, the argument was why isn't Jito an ownership coin, or why doesn't it become an ownership coin? Um, I don't think that's the answer, to be honest. And if our viewers, or if anyone goes and reads that thread, they're going to see something that was discussed a few minutes ago in this chat. Like the intentions are good, but there is things that are missing from the communication, or they're not clear. Like the DAO is doing things where the community is not really sure they're already doing them, and they have questions that they're asking on crypto Twitter or crypto X, whatever you want to call it. And this goes to show you how important transparency is, and how we should be using solutions that minimize the effort by the team or the protocol to constantly be tweaking and announcing stuff. There should be all these information should be available from anyone. They can check and they can go in one place and everything. So that's about the transparency part. So yeah, this discussion about Jito not being an ownership coin and everything, it discusses um, why the DAO doesn't do programmatic upgrades where it does, which is a very very bullish thing about the protocol being updated through the program and through the DAO in a decentralized way, which is very very cool. Dean?
Yeah, I'm looking at this first response between Brian and 8-Bit, and I think 8-Bit's being a little unfair. Just because, again, I think it's very obvious that 8-Bit really steers towards, MetaDAO, and then says, in quotes, Jito does have value capture, and says you can claim that, however, the token simply doesn't reflect that. So either you're wrong or the market is. Brother, when Mountain Capital made a few turkey bets saying we should buy back our token because the market doesn't realize that we have more capital than the market valuation, no one was making that argument. Oh, who's wrong? Us or the market? The like is so incorrect to come to the conclusion that the market, that reality is what's in the token price. That's not the case. We've seen it's not the case. Clearly, the buybacks exist. The fact that the market doesn't know doesn't mean that it's not true. The market simply doesn't know. It's one of those things. I would say that there are many examples. If you really want to, you can go through and find a lot of examples where the treasury value and the token are mismatched. Then there's more examples of no treasury value and a huge token value. So it was a very poor conclusion and very unfair, especially coming from the MetaDAO, Mountain DAO cabal. You guys have a few turkey vote where you literally said, "Hey, let's buy back something that we think the market doesn't understand the price of." That was max ludicrousness when it comes to futarchy.
Is the question here if Jito is an ownership coin? Is like, or is an
That it would be
ownership?
better off as an ownership coin, which is basically saying, hey, instead of using token governance, you should be using futarchy.
Yeah, that's it's a. I think it's a harsh critique because I think out of the DAOs out there, Jito is very close to an ownership coin, and ownership coin. I think there are two takes on what is an ownership coin. Is an ownership coin I own part of the business, like equity, like, or it is I have control over treasuries, or I have control, or at least I know what I own. What are the? We have to make a distinction because, and I'm gonna pass the mic to you, Taki. But I think the distinction is very important, as at the moment Jito, you know, asks the holders how they're gonna redistribute their earnings, their revenue, their MEV fees, all these things. So is it perfect? No, but is it really good and really ownership like? I think it is. I think it is. I think 8-bit penis is a little bit too harsh on this subject. Taki.
So around the ownership coin definition and marketing term, let's say, there's quite some chatter around the ownership being translated as I have the right to go after whoever founder of an ownership coin protocol, does something that I don't like as a holder. So if they rag or if, I don't agree with what they're doing, I have a right to go after them legally. I don't think that's something that in the age of Web3 and crypto, and then the blockchain technology is something that we should aspire to be the ultimate expression of owning something. The ultimate expression of owning something should be I can participate in the decision making. I can have access. I have some expectations on how things are run, and I can express my voice, and that voice can be heard. I can see, how the sausage is made whenever I feel like it, at least to a certain degree. So this is something that it's a nice topic that we've also discussed, outside the podcast about whether we need legal protection and whether we need the MIDAs of this world and the Marshall Islands and the legal entities and everything to qualify as an industry that we're behaving and that we're treating our stakeholders in a nice way. Legend?
Yeah, I was just about to say, like in the, like for me, I have a different take. Like ownership tokens are basically governance tokens. Like it's the same name, same. And Jito, it's already an ownership token. Like you own the treasure, you own the DAO treasure. The moment you can link your governance token to a governed, to a treasury that is governed by a smart contract that interacts with the token holders, you own the treasury now.
And the
But
programs.
now you
Don't
gotta play.
forget.
Yeah, the programs. Now you gotta play by the rules. Like it's not everybody with, let's say, $1 worth of stocks, or let's say tokens in this case, that you're entitled to everything, right? Even in the realms MetaDAO, you still gotta reach consensus of start a proposal to make action. Where I think MetaDAO, the recent launches are asking from 1 to 3% of the supply to be start to making a proposal. I might be wrong. I think it's 3% or something. The same is the two Realms DAOs. For example, every DAO on Realms has very customizable rules on how much minimum amount of tokens you need to create a proposal. And Jito on this ownership slash governance spectrum slash ICM is on the higher side. Like Jito is one of the most big scalable DAOs that do ICM level on a very high level. Like you can, it's on transparency level. You can see the programs, you can see the rules. Like there's nothing to hide. The revenue goes to the treasury. The DAO controls the treasury, and who's the DAO? You, as a holder, as a token voter, you're a part of the DAO. Now, what you do with your token, not on our side, but yeah, on the ICM status, like Jito get one of the most big scores, and I mean, this just gave me an idea that Realm should have an ICM status like tag on every DAO on Realms, most likely. Like I think we're gonna see it is something very soon. And every time you go to click to a DAO, you're gonna see, let's say, 4 categories in terms of transparency. And yeah, I think Jito will get a very high scores. And if Jit is not an ownership, I think it's already an ownership from day one. Is an ownership, so you cannot bash them, you cannot criticize them. Maybe on the transparency level, they can do better things for the sub DAOs, but it's not a big deal. It's more liberty to the community on that side, and it's more about the education on how can you utilize these tools to maximize, let's say, transparency. But yeah, that's what I wanted to say on the G2 side, that their ICM status slash ownership slash governance is one of the highest. And I'm not going to say names, but there are bigger protocols that have this governance token as well, which they're very low. Like you can see some protocols that they do buybacks, and none of these buybacks go back to the DAO. For example, they go to a multisig, which is controlled by 1, 2 out of 4, 5. Yeah, I'm not meant to mention names. You can look for yourself these big protocols, but Jito, it's one of the best, and you should follow their example on the scalability and transparency at least. So yeah.
I'll agree with Legend. I think Jito has to do very few moves to become the example in the space. Adding, as we talked earlier, the adding the streams as reoccurring, and since most of the transactions are kind of the same values, you see like about $2,000 on each transaction, looks like payroll or looks like some kind of operational expense. All these things can be done through streams. It's going to be cleaner. It's going to be quicker. A little bit more transparency on the documentation to get add all the treasuries together, show which ones are sub DAOs, which ones are controlled by the main team, which ones should have veto enabled. Do you think this applies to the Jito case? Do you think some of these treasuries that are handling larger amounts should be
So I think what's
should
going to
have veto
happen
enabled?
is that we cannot fall in the aggregator space. We have now so many ICM launchpads with that manage treasuries and, let's say, MetaDAO squads. They manage protocols treasuries. What's going to happen is that one of them is going to integrate third-party treasuries. For example, if, let's say, Realms starts this integration to integrate squads treasuries, or MetaDAO squads treasuries, or SOAR, which is one of the ICM launchpads, or ICM.run treasuries, DAOs.fund treasuries. There's gonna be for sure someone that will come with an idea that they're gonna build a protocol that aggregates, more like a analysis type of protocol, like informational, where you can see all the DAO protocol treasuries in one screen. Now, who's going to be the first to do it? It's a good question, but aggregate all the transparency in one place, it's a big deal too.
As well as they'll need to update their constitution, as I think there is a mismatch between the information you've uncovered and the ones described in the constitution.
I think this constitution idea goes back to the idea I got also 10 minutes ago, which is this ICM status on Realms as a tag. So I think what we can do is on the DAO metadata side, we can have a ICM category where the DAO uploads the constitution, has streaming transparent, and some other two categories which I still didn't figure out, but it's something possible. We can start showing users how this DAO, goes into spectrum of ICM, like, it's not public at all, not transparent at all, or, it's pretty much transparent.
I want to touch a bit on the decision making side of things. You know how easy it is for people to uh, see the decision making, participate in the decision making, and what type of decision making goes through Jito, which I think it's a great example of, we see the program upgrades. We also see, votes that are going to the community for, with transparency. Okay, we don't know the exact location of the squads. There's an effort. There's a very up-to-date forum there. Besides the fact that not many people read the forums these days. Like those proposals that we see live currently were up for discussion a month ago. But I digress. I I also want to pinpoint one thing that it's to be expected, but at the same time the buyer becomes very high. At the moment, if you go and see how much funds, how much capital you need to propose something to Jito, the requirements are insane. Like you need 250K Jito, which is at the moment 130,000 USD value in order for you to be able to voice a proposal. Of course, members can have suggestions which cost nothing, and the DAO can see them, and what they decide to do with it, it's up to them. And am I right to remember that there was a process in Jito where non-proposal threshold holders can propose things, and if they get enough traction, they are gonna go on chain? Was it something that used to be
I think
a
still
fact in
is
Jito?
like Jito forum has three categories, which is the Jeep ideas, Jeep drafts, and Jeep official. So most of the proposals they come from the core team, core contributors, which then goes on chain. People who don't have enough Jito, they go most likely to the Jeep ideas. They kind of suggest to the core team that has access to these tokens, and the Jito will act as a delegate to your proposal, and they put it on chain, which it looks a good case. I don't see much issue here. Also, in terms of requirements to make a proposal on chain directly without any type of consensus is very low. Like Jito is safeguarding 150 million at the moment, so having 250K to start a proposal, it's very cheap in terms of ratio. So yeah, I think that's what I said. Like the Jito and ICM status and transparency, very high.
No, I think they also rate very high. Dean, you're muted. One second, let me say this. They rate very high in the decision making, in my opinion, because they have sentiment polling. They at least they might actually not have more sentiment polls than actionable votes. The ones to transfer funds and to do something on chain and programmatically are on the high side versus other DAOs, and they also upgrade their programs through decentralized governance, which is insanely bullish, and it should be the default for any protocol or that wants to qualify as a blockchain protocol or whatever.
Yeah, I don't think you can get higher on the decision making, and I would go as far as saying that I think the proposal threshold is the correct number. Um, there's a lot of value there. I want it to be protected. I, as a holder, want a high proposal threshold. That way, you don't have random attackers, and we have to pay attention to it. So I think the proposal threshold is correct. There are higher ones. So to put things in relativity, that's 100K, whereas the one for Metaplex is 100 million. So yeah, there's magnitudes of high. You use the word insane. I don't know. I think it's
Yeah, the Metaplex one has to be the feds that buy all the Metaplex so they can make a proposal. It's impossible, at least.
Ah, so
I
I like the
stand corrected.
proposal threshold
I stand
um,
corrected.
that they've put. I think it's the right number. I don't want to see a lot of proposals up, um, and I would tell you that you also pointed out something else. The moment you should consider lowering it is when you have so many suggestions that are not being heard. Like no one's posting suggestions. You saw that all five of the JIPs that are put up are all authored by the same person who's part of the team. So I don't think that I haven't sat to go through the forum and see that there's a voice that's not being, you know, that there's somebody being quieted. I did notice that there's a gap in JIP numbers. Um, I'm not going to say that I, I I don't have the feeling that there's a repressed voice in the Jito community, and if there is, and you're watching this, use the Realm suggestion tool. It's on chain. No one can then go and delete or change any of your opinions. It can be right there on chain for everybody to see. Um, that's how a voice can dissent if it needs to, but otherwise, yeah, I think Jito highest points there.
It's going through the show. Like this is the third episode, fourth counting the introductory one. We slowly start to see the Super Saiyan version of an ICM protocol. So until now, we have the highest transparency rating for Adrena, and now for the decision making, the highest rating goes to Jito. So slowly, we discover, which are like the strongest protocols around when it comes to certain verticals of the ICM standard. It's very interesting to see where you go next.
I think we have to do an ownership coin next week.
I think so too. Yeah, it will be striking,
So yeah,
strikingly
put it
evident.
put it up as a poll, and maybe we invite 8-Bit for him to join us too.
In an organization like Jito, with such large treasuries and a really good, well governance structure laid out, would you add a rage quit style of ability for a token holder? Because we're talking about serious money and a very successful project protocol.
Uh, I, as a holder, would say absolutely. I want to see others who are non-believers have a way to exit, and it improves my holding because those tokens are burned. That person no longer has it's the ultimate protection, and I think it gives value to everyone.
I
Totally
disagree
agree.
in one point. Rage quit should be only available to protocols or treasuries that don't have an outside market, like a spot market. So the only way to buy and redeem your token is through the DAO itself, treasury. Which the most ideal case here is hedge fund ideas, like hedge fund and stuff, where it's like symmetry. You put USDC in the basket, you see the basket perform, and then you can redeem, at a loss or at a profit, and then
Okay.
there is no spot market like. Uh,
To
the
clarify his answer, he's saying no one should have rage quit other than hedge funds.
No, he's saying
Yeah,
that
but
there should be some other rules in place, I think. Maybe every 6 months at a very specific date. Or I understand that you're saying this in case you want like someone arbs between the value they can take out of the treasury versus the spot market, where someone comes in and out. What are you
yes,
safeguarding?
I'm saying it's mostly a trick the rage quit feature is to give the perception of illusion the token holder has power over his has power of the market cap that the token is trading at. That's why I was saying I only the protocol has to choose between a rage quit, having this feature always enabled, or having a spot market, a third market, open market basically. That's my ideal here, at least for me.
But these are two, I think these are two different mechanics. In one case, you are selling your tokens to the open market and exchanging it for someone else's belief to the project. On the other hand, you're burning, you're removing them from circulation. There's no coming back.
Yes, that's you either need to choose one of them, like rich quit, but no open market,
I'm
or
still unclear on the why. Is it the ARB
it's the
problem,
ARB.
or is it
The
your
ARB is
creating
the problem.
operational
Is the
limitations?
illusion of the ARB.
I see. Do you think that this is solvable by having like quarterly meetings where only for that day is allowed to rage quit?
No.
Which means that there is the arbitrage opportunity just because we assume in like we believe in the assumption of efficient market hypothesis, the ARB is going to close just because of the volume of people trying to exploit it because it's just one day. Is this a thing? Am I too gillable?
I have no idea. We need to experiment this type of ideas, but from this theoretical scenario, I will say no, personally.
Because markets are permissionless. Even your hedge fund, I can make a market.
Yeah, I agree that you can make a market, but being liquid from day one of the inception of the protocol, it's not gonna be very, it's a unlikely, and
This this
it
is
can still
now
work.
this is an argument on, you know, he like I respect he thinks that rage quit should not exist outside of hedge funds. And
No,
I can see that. But like specific I'm only setting that context that way any viewer knows that he's not saying, oh, for Jito, no, I don't want this. He's saying he doesn't want it for anyone. And I'm specifically saying I like this for Jito because I like it for almost everyone. Um, yeah. So maybe it's not even something we should bring up in the podcast since we have kind of like a generic view. Like I think all of them should have. He thinks all of them shouldn't have except for hedge funds.
Should all projects have markets? All tokens have
You
markets?
can't you
Yeah, let's
can't
take
stop it.
to the root.
You can't stop it. They
I mean,
shouldn't.
in a permissionless ecosystem that enables this, yeah, you can't stop it. I'm just saying my preference
I
for
understand,
the
but we need to.
protocols I've chosen to.
Let's also take into account market dynamics and what can anybody do in this permissionless market. Your hedge fund says doesn't have a market, so you can, like the hedge fund idea. I'm not saying and I see your point. Don't take me wrong. I'm just trying to understand if you could possibly make this distinction since it's permissionless to make a market. Like
I
the
think
hedge
it's
fund
fine.
will have a market. So can it does this mean that nobody should ever have a rage quit function?
No, no, I'm not saying that. Like they're free to do whatever they want, but the game then is different, played very differently. Like most of the game, which was recently started as well. Ownership coins is the yeah. Not going too deep into it. I need to think more.
So no claim in a project's assets is from token holders is good.
Like, is this something that it's enabled by default, or is the DAO decision to enable this?
I this is a great conversation. Let's not go too like let's leave it here. Just because we're leaving kind of like what we could do with Jito. Um
So yeah, we can do a short question like, would Jito having a rage quit function be nice, let's say? And the answer is yes or no, binary.
Be
Uh,
nice or raise its token price. It's governance token price.
It's
ownership.
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 It's ownership. Yes.
You own the DAO treasury directly now. You can redemption at any time. You have your own Jito, boom, the treasury is not yours.
I understand the operational problems such an ability that a right creates. Like if a token, it's exiting from an investment at an unplanned point in
Yeah,
time. Like
is
that.
it a
It's bad.
legality issue here too? Like, is it legal to do this? Like, the revenue goes to the DAO treasury, and you as a token staker or whole voter, you just redeemed, you just trade basically.
Yeah, that's not something that we can answer in this podcast.
Yeah. I know. I think I know who had a similar setup in the DAO treasury, and I think it was Lifinity, if I was not wrong. So Lifinity has a dual token, not governance, but a dual token utility, where if you stake the main token, you are eligible to get the V token, which like the V token semantics, and the V token is able to earn revenue of the protocol. So here is where the legality is kind of gray. You can do it, but has to do through the shenanigans basically. So the way Jito will do it is probably make the Jito token being the utility token to be migrating to another token to receive the revenue basically from the protocol. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not too knowledgeable about this, but I can see where it can happen, but it can happen through another framework, which
Yeah, I clearly remember the narrative of if you wanna do rev share, don't do it in your own token, wrap it to another one.
yeah.
Like
Right.
I
The
remember,
cool. The,
I think this is playing with the law, playing with the general idea of what is considered the security and what's not, and it's not clean. It doesn't feel clean at least.
yeah, it started with Curve, I think, back in Eve. This type of rev share, I think, and how you do it on Solana. I think Tuna also kind of does it in a way, but not rev share. Maybe rewards of the protocol share. Yeah, legality is a big question here. So, but yeah, going back to the Jito stuff, short answer could be yes, a rich quit feature.
So, for Jito specifically to become even better on what they're doing, because they're already good on their governance structure, I would add also some milestone-based allowances, a dashboard with all the raises, the treasuries, the multisigs, and the flows. I'm not convinced about the rage quit. I think our conversation here gave me a lot a lot to think on how to choose between one or the other, or even if it's possible. Um, and maybe adding a contributor track, something to distinguish between what's the operational expenses of the team and what are the extras that could the team the community decide or have some kind of incentives to start something to propose something. Other than that, I think it's a very clean DAO.
Yeah, I
It's
agree. Like the
technically
amount of information we as outsiders of the Jito DAO can get just from the DAO itself, it's a lot. Now, if you want to go deeper, checking operations, what you just said, maybe you can dig deeper. But you get a lot of information just by visiting the Jito DAO realms. and checking the forum and discourse for from the governance framework as well. So in terms of transparency and the governance setup, very straightforward. You can see the settings, can see everything. Yeah, should be there's nothing, everything on chain. So yeah,
Big shout
Okay,
out
before
to Jito then, and their team. Huge shout out. Like as from our conversation, I can see who's winning on the governance track.
so
yeah,
yeah,
it's
not only Jito, but I think everybody that advocates for decentralized on-chain governance. It's major applause. Jito, Marinate, Solblaze, which most of the biggest LST operators and other DeFi in general. They're doing their best, and yeah, we should just help them refine and not bash them because everybody here is learning, right? And yeah, so that's it.
yeah, like I don't think anybody's bashing Jito, to be honest, and they've been around since the early days. They're doing great work. They are committed. They they're following through on decentralized practices most than the vast majority of protocols on the space. Um, Before we wrap up, what's the answer to the question then? Would you invest in Zito, JTO?
Full disclosure, I've already invested in it. So, uh, yes, I will continue being an investor, holder, and I think it's a great example of governance, realms user, constitution, and a general improvement in the space. So, yes, I would, I will, and I will continue doing so.
Yeah, short answer is yes. I think it's a asset that can be very easily understood. So yeah.
That was a very good observation. Yeah, thank you for that, Legend. It's very easy to understand Jito, and it's very easy to understand why uh, it belongs to internet capital markets. And I also am invested in Jito, and I would continue to invest. I like everything they're doing. It's very hard to find something that I don't like, even through the standard, through all these practices that we've been discussing. So yeah, good game, and they deservedly belong to one of the top protocols in the ecosystem. So yeah, shout out to them. With that last comment, I think we can wrap up. It was a fun episode, not so spicy that I would have expected to be. We came. I think all of us came into the episode, thinking that Jito is a very good protocol in many ways, and I think we're finishing the episode validating this, even after taking it through the ICM lens. What do you guys think? Do you agree or disagree?
Uh, yeah, maybe we don't know enough. Maybe we know a lot, but in terms of governance, transparency, and the governance setup, there's not much spiciness to give. Everything is so transparent that you can make your own takeaways very easily and see how stuff works out on chain and programmatically as well. Very simple, very easy to see. On this side, at least, yeah, there's not much spiciness. Maybe if we talk about LST war and stuff like that, which it's outside governance, stuff can get spicy. But yeah, in terms of governance and the governance setup, it looks good to me, at least from what I've what I've shown, discussed. Maybe there's some leftover stuff, but so far it's I think it's good. So yeah.
What about you, Taki? Would you invest?
I said I will. Yeah, I mentioned there like
Ah,
before
okay.
Legend spoke. The LSD wars are like a entirely, different season of episodes, I think, to discuss. But yeah, let's not expand this so close to our finishing mark. Um, Thank you guys for joining. Thank you to everybody who's watching or listening. Remember, these episodes go live every Thursday, and then shortly after, they are on the Realms YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you get your podcasts. Uh, Next week is going to be a spicy one. Let's do an ownership coin next week. I'm going to put the poll up once we wrap up here. And I think it's going to be a good contrast, of information and spiciness, as Legend mentioned, comparing Jito with ownership coins that we're going to do next week. Excited. Thank you for joining the conversation. Thank you for watching.